Good to be with you. I'm from that state that really still does have a football team. I don't know if you all know it from Georgia, but congratulations on your win. We're still working at it. So glad to be with you today to talk about some Florida peanut varieties, and we'll get right into it. There are three runner varieties and one Virginia variety that we have in our Florida program, seed program now. The 331 and 297 you've heard some about already, as well as a new one I'll talk about, Flow Run T61. We also have a Virginia variety called Walton, and that one has been released for a few years now. We're still developing seed of that one. It is a large type Virginia that's done really well throughout the VC region where they grow mostly Virginias, but it is something that does perform well in the southeast if you like to grow Virginias or need some for the bowling market. So first with Flow Run T61, this is our latest release. The T stands for tomato spotted wilt. We heard a lot about that here earlier if you were in the earlier session, where spotted wilt was a big problem for us in 2022, and of course it could be again, and we really don't know when it's going to happen or as severely as it has in the past, but this one has shown really good resistance to tomato spotted wilt virus, which is why we released it. It's a relatively medium-sized variety with about 600 seed per pound, so it's going to be in that small range, not quite as small as our 331, but a little bit better on seed size than something like 06G or 297 that is large seeded. A little bit cheaper to plant. It's about 140 days under irrigation in Florida. Yield potential has been similar to 06G in Florida and Georgia. Grade in the upper 70s, looks good. It's moderately resistant to white mold as well, and a little more susceptible to leaf spot, typical for our varieties. Pretty similar to 06G in that category, but a little bit better tolerance, like I said, to tomato spotted wilt. The other one is 331. You've heard some about this one as well. It's a little bit smaller seed, 650 to 700 seed per pound. Medium maturity as well. Yield potential has been similar to 12Y in our Florida test. Good yield potential there. Grade in the mid 70s. Has moderate resistance to white mold. That's looked pretty good. I'll show some data on that one later. Leaf spots moderately susceptible, and a little bit more susceptible to tomato spotted wilt. If you're looking at this variety, this would be something in a risk scenario, would be a little bit more risky. Something you want to plant more towards the middle of May, whereas the T61 is something you could plant more towards early May. 297, you saw some of Dr. Colbert's slides earlier if you was here for that. It's a large seeded runner. It has really good spotted wilt resistance as well. Yield potential has been very good in our tests, and it is medium maturity to grades in the mid to upper 60s, so it looks 70s. I mean, it looks good there. White mold is moderately resistant. Leaf spot is susceptible, and it has some good tolerance to tomato spotted wilt. You saw with Dr. Culver's slides if you were here earlier. It's one of the best in terms of spotted wilt that he has tested over the last few years, and it looks good in our tests as well. Walton is the high oleic Virginia type, and I'll mention that all those previous runners were high oleic types, and we are releasing mostly high oleic types we have in the past, but we will release some normal oleic types in the future. We have one actually coming up for release this year, and one coming beyond that will be a normal oleic type. Those are more favored by the peanut butter industry, the normal oleic types, and the high oleic. So we're trying to meet that demand as well in the future. But back to Walton, high oleic Virginia. The high oleics are really important for the Virginia trade. The shelf life is much improved with the high oleic type, especially in the roasted in-shell Virginia type market. So this one does meet that. It's about 140 days under irrigation in Florida. Yield potential has been similar to Bailey in the VC area, that's Virginia, Carolina, and a little bit better in Florida where we've tested it. Grades a little bit lower for Virginias on average, low to mid 70s. It does have a high percentage of ELK and super ELK, and that's important for the size if you're shelling those. Targeted for the VC area, but it is, like I said, good for the southeast for bowling, or if you're growing for Virginia in shell as well. A little bit of data from Florida. You see here that these are tests from 2019 to 2022. We typically grow around 4 locations, and 2 of those locations have a non-irrigated site, and the other 4 are irrigated. Tests are irrigated. And you see here that the irrigated is in the blue, the non-irrigated is in kind of the orange, and the green is the average there. The highest yielding variety in our tests over this period of time has been Flow Run 331. You see Georgia 18RU is in there as well, and T61 is close behind it. as well as 16HO and 297. So high yield potential with these varieties, good yield potential. Also pretty good in non-irrigated situations. You see the 331 was over 5,500 pounds per acre in the non-irrigated test where we grew it. That's been something pretty consistent with that variety throughout our tests with it. This is from the University of Georgia, 2019 through 2022. The highest yielding variety there was 12Y and 06G and 18RU, and then 331 you see is in there as well. So again, yield potential looks very good across these locations for the 297 and 331. We don't have enough data yet on the T61 to show you over years with that variety in Georgia yet. We also do some on-farm demonstrations with the varieties. I work with our county agents in Florida, and this is a summary from 2021 and 2022. 2021 on the top there, you see that we had 3 counties and then the summary. And these are where we basically supply seed to the grower. They grow about 1 to 2 acre size plots. They grow them, they harvest them, they take them to the buying point, and they're graded there. So this is actual yield from a farmer. The previous data we looked at were small plots. Those are our 15 to 20 feet long and 2 rows wide replicated plots. These are not that. These are farmer averages over these counties. And so you notice along the bottom there that we have different varieties for what I call the check. This is what the farmer was growing in the field at the time we were growing the test. And so we just kind of average those together as what a commercial variety looks like. And you can see we were very excited about the T61. It yielded 4,400 pounds per acre in those 3 counties and had a grade of 76, so it looks very good. Similar in 2022, the T61 and 297 had very high yields compared to the other varieties, very competitive there with yield and grade. We also look at disease. This is some data from Dr. Tim Brenneman, does here in Georgia. We had 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2022, where we had these varieties in the same test together, comparing their spotted wilt. So the ratings that he took in that test showed that T61 indeed has quite good spotted wilt tolerance, similar to 12Y in this group of tests. White mold also was lower, similar to 12Y in these tests, and good leaf spot tolerance, and also high yield. So just corroborates the data we see in Florida that it does do well in the conditions in Tifton under these disease conditions. So I want to thank the supporters of the work, the National Peanut Board, the Florida Peanut Checkoff, USDA, NIFA, and the Peanut Shellers Association who provide support for this work.